kind of,
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
no problem. But I'm looking to kind of, expand a little bit of my dialect in the world of project management and technology.
Okay.
And I was given this seminar as a possible jumping off point.
All right. Awesome. Well, I guess you were giving this from your friend, and Hima was giving this from someone. So, I mean, kudos to having powerful or great communities of people looking out for you for sure. I think that's awesome. For me, I'm just going to really get started, honestly. One of the things I really enjoy about when I do this once monthly or as much as I can is it's also an avenue for people to ask me questions. I mean, we do have the platform where let me see that I move this. We have the platform where people, can ask questions or, social media and all of that. But this is also an avenue to ask questions. So that's why I'm always asking, tell me more about yourself and where are you joining from and all of that, so that I know who's on the call, but I also make sure that I'm having the opportunity to answer your specific questions as much as I can. Yes, I typically come with something that I want to share, and I am going to go ahead to do just that. And of course, letting you all know how I can definitely support you all in your journey. So it's great to hear, like, imagine you talked about how you're in project. It's funny when you said you don't know Scrum, you are not fully familiar with Scrum or the language, because I mean, Project Scrum is, or Agile, is the way of managing projects. So I'm happy to dive in that a little bit. And I know we have Doug on the call. Hey, Doug, you're open to sharing and say hello. Feel free to do that. Um, so for today, I'm really just going to be really covering just kind of like going through the basics of what does it mean to sprint to success. That's the thing. But looking about what is Scrum Master and what does that all of that entail? What is that guy that land your Scrum Master job? Hima, I'm going to mute you if that's okay. All right. So really, there's so many things I'm going to cover today, but I believe that knowing a bit of yours journey a little bit, there'll be something for you here. So feel free. One thing I'll definitely encourage you is feel free to please leverage the chat, put in your questions there, wait till the end so you can ask me specific questions, because that's another reason why you're here is to either expand your language, know what it means, how to start pivoting and move right, right to the next. And so this is kind of like things I'm going to cover today in terms of agenda. I'm going to do a quick overview. I'm not going to definitely, because an hour or less than an hour is not enough time to do as much as I can. But just an overview of Scrum Master role. What does that look like, leveraging your experience? Some case studies, of course, case studies, real life case studies, people that I know personally who've been through our program and showing you how they did it and ways that you can pivot. And I'm going to show you like just some screenshot of companies that are hiring, because that's a whole conversation about that and what are the paths you can use to pivot to. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer your questions for you. And it would be unfair for me to not let you know how I can support you on that journey as well. So that's where the next steps um, come into play. So now that I've met you all a little bit, I just want to introduce myself because I don't want to assume that you know who I am. I'm here on behalf of Enstar Technologies, which is a training institution based out of Atlanta, Georgia, but we have students that are across literally the continent. My name is Stella Iheanacho, and I am the Agile faculty lead. And what that means is that I do have the privilege of working closely, coaching and mentoring professionals who are looking to pivot or change their career into the Agile space. And so I am an Agile coach, I'm an Agile leader. I typically would joke and say, if you hang around me for a very short period of time, I will bring you to the Agile part of the world. And that's how it is for me. I see it everywhere. I see the principles everywhere. I'm able to come into an environment and leverage agility as a way of work in that environment. My experience has spanned decades, over a decade, and I've worked in different industries with various scope of work, various team size, you know, different dynamics and focus, basically domain areas for industries. So education, finance, tech, and all of that. And I also have the, opportunity of collaborate or be one of the I don't want to mention the name, but one of the most popular certifying bodies. I'm part of the steering committee, and so my input is taken into account when they are updating their certification exams. And so that's exams that most of y'all would take, if you're going to the project management space or the Scrum space. So I think my point here is this is something I'm really passionate about, and not just passion, but also teaching it. Not just also teaching it in terms of, secondhand teaching, but also something that I do on my day to day. And again, one of the best part of my job, I would say, or just my work is being able to literally see people as yourselves, come in through either our program or come into one of these calls like this or go through our any of our offerings and literally see how their life has changed just because they acquired either Scrum Master skills, Agile skills. They're able to elevate in their current career or pivot into another career or begin to think about now they have more choices that they can think about that they didn't think about before, right? So with that being said, just a little bit of session housekeeping. The ask here really is just ensuring that I want it to be interactive. And so towards the end, of course, you can come off mute and chat about things you've learned, questions that you have, put your questions in the chat, and all of that. And we can really get going. So let's go into why are we here, right? One of the reasons I think about is knowing some of those people that have come through this class sometimes is this possible for me? And possibility is no matter how much you tell someone something is possible for them, until they really see a picture or see someone who has gone through that, it's almost like a far-fetched idea. And so if you're here and you're wondering, well, is this possible for me? Can I do this? Do I have the capacity? Do I have the time? Do I have the knowledge? Is this something that is a whole different field for me, or do I need to learn how to write a code? All of that. These are multiple, ideas that people have that sometimes is a block for them to take a step into this. So, my job here is to tell you that it is possible for you, And while I was making my introduction earlier, I told you that I do have the privilege of literally being surrounded with people who I have seen come through and it is possible for them now. And so different people who are working in different places as Scrum Masters, senior Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, or different title. That's another thing, different title, but their roles and responsibilities are very much in alignment with agility or what a Scrum Master does. So yes, it is possible for you. And I love to always share my first example so that you see how this is possible for you. Like this is someone who had never worked in corporate America before. She was a stay-at-home mom, took the program, our class, took our program, but she was able to leverage her past experience. She was able to go through literally the end to end of the program because we're just not teaching you abstract, but we're also giving you what does it mean to be a Scrum Master on the job and access to the tools and that community and that resume and LinkedIn support and all of that in interview. And here we are, working for one of the banks, one of the global banks as well too. So if you're again, the goal of sharing this is like if you think it's not possible for you, I just want you to know that anything is possible. This one particularly is possible for you. So with that being said, let's talk about Scrum, right? Like, why is Scrum popular? Why is Agile popular? If there's anyone here, please, like I said, I want it to be interactive. I'm just curious. I know I didn't have the pleasure of hearing Doug or Anitra speak, but let me know, are you all like practicing Agile practitioners or aspiring Agile practitioners, or are you trying to pivot, or what is, I think the main question here is what is your degree of knowledge when it comes to Agile and Scrum? I'm just curious. Something that you've heard of, you're well aware of, or you're kind of like in the middle. Just let me know in the chat. All right. So let's talk about why Scrum is popular. So again, I wouldn't go in depth, but I'm going to give you enough information to kind of like level set. So you have something you're going to definitely work with. And that is around Agile. So what is Agile, right? What is Agile? What is Agile way of work? What is Agile mindset and all of that? Agility or Agile, it's a mindset. Yes, it's a way of work. It's really an approach to managing project that literally has some principles, some underlying principles where the teams are able to deliver value to the customer faster. There's that continuous feedback loop from the customer, right? Where we are able to deliver something, not waiting for the final delivery of that product or whatever it is, but we're able to deliver things bits and pieces basically and get feedback. And the more feedback we get, the more we're able to add on, to that. So with that being said, again, it's all about just Agile is that umbrella that has different ways of managing project, right? And one thing I want to say here is that there's that mindset to it. And I'll give an example. I remember one of my students took like, I think one of the Google project management certification. And when he came to class, he kind of like assumed that he knew what Agile was. But at the end of the class, you realized these are two different ways of doing things. When it comes to like traditional way of managing project, the project manager is responsible for the success of that project from inception to execution. They literally are all in on the success of the project. But from a Scrum Master perspective, right, an Agile way of thinking is more about really empowering the teams to take ownership of the work that you're doing. But I take a step back. So again, Agile is a way of working. It's a way of managing project. All right. So agile is a way of managing project, is that mindset, is that approach to project management that really helps teams deliver value faster. It gives them that opportunity to get continuous feedback loop. My typical best example of an agile company I always say is Apple, because they keep literally delivering, like they have this consistent pipeline of revenue because they keep delivering products, right? It's almost like, and the funny thing is that we think that they're just putting out this product or versions without us, without our input, but they're getting feedback from us, willingly, unwillingly, consciously, unconsciously. I mean, if you even scale it down a little bit to maybe Instagram, for example, for those who are on social media, Instagram keeps evolving. They're adding new features, they're rolling it back out, because they're able to measure real time from how we are using it, right? So that's Instagram. So again, Agile is that umbrella. Well, it's a way of work, it's a mindset. But under agility, right, there are different framework. And the purpose of this session today is really focusing on Scrum. So the program that I teach is all about Scrum. And Scrum is one of the most popular agile framework for good reason. And I will always say this, that even the other frameworks that exist, honestly, there is that foundation of Scrum in it, right? So again, Scrum is one of the most popular frameworks. So if you search out there for jobs, you will actually see that Scrum Master roles are the ones that are being sought after by recruiters or hiring managers. And so there are other types. There's the Kanban, all of that, but Scrum is the main one. So let's go into why is Scrum popular, right? So why not the other framework? Why is Scrum popular? Why are companies looking for Scrum Masters, right? Because it's easy to implement. Well, when you understand it, it's easy to implement. You're able to know what it means to be a Scrum Master. You're able to know what is in the toolbox of Scrum in itself. And also, it represents teamwork, right? It represents teamwork and is known to be a very team-centric project management approach, right, is known to create an environment for teams to be able to take ownership of their work. If you remember what I said before about project management, where the project manager is taking accountability for the success of the project, really, I always say this to my students. I would say a successful Scrum Master is one who works themselves out of a job because you have to get your team to a level where there are two words we use in Scrum, where they are cross-functional and self-managing. And so cross-functional means that all the skills and the expertise that you need to get an idea from zero to hero, you have it within that team. And self-managing means that they don't need external confidence or direction. The teams know how to navigate whatever roadblocks that they face or issues that they face, right? And so Scrum is popular again because of that better morale amongst employees and team members. And then, of course, it helps get value to the customers faster. Again, while, it's funny because I'm thinking how sometimes the Scrum Master can get really bogged down in trying to help their team be empowered and all of that. But you remember that sometimes when you help a team be empowered, there's that process or phase where they might be chaos. They might be all over the place. There might be conflict of interest and all of that. Sometimes leadership or organization or the business, they don't have the patience for you trying to get your act in order, right? So, but at the end of the day, though, when the teams go through that phase, they're able to get value to the customers faster because again, business cares about money, right? Care about revenue, right? So they go back to the iPhone, for example, like, hey, we also, most of us, for those who use an Apple product, we have the iPhone in our hands. It's not the almighty iPhone. What is the almighty iPhone? Who wouldn't if Apple iPhone product wants to create the almighty iPhone, they will never release anything because guess what? Technology is evolving so fast. The human needs are, we don't even know what we want yet, right? And so they're able to give us something that is valuable now, but then again, there's that feedback loop. Then the third part here is, and the fourth part here is it promotes that short work time and it lowers risk, and improves that customer stakeholder relationship. So when we talk about that short work time, one of the things about Scrum is that we work in sprints, and sprints is maximum of 4 weeks, minimum of 1 week. So the teams are coming together and they're focusing on delivering value, for example, at the maximum of 4 weeks. That is a quick turnaround. And if you think about, well, why is that important? Because in 4 weeks, when they show the customer something that they've done, the customer can give them feedback and they can make change. The cost of change at 4 weeks versus the cost of change at 1 year is I mean, you cannot even compare. That's why a lot of companies are really adopting Agile now and the Scrum framework because they realize that in traditional way of managing project, you get like maybe your requirement from your customer, you understand what they want, and then you build whatever it is that they want to build for a period of time. Maybe it's like a 1 year contract or so. By the time you show the customer what you've done, their needs have changed. That thing is no longer relevant. Now the cost of changing at that point in time is going to be higher, right? So again, more reasons of why Scrum is popular. You can implement change as and when they occur, right? So like I mentioned to you recently, like I said, I mean, Instagram, there was a feature that I noticed was no longer there. Nobody made a huge announcement that they're recalling it. We felt it, and I'm sure probably feedback from us, either they're going to release or not the same one or release an updated one, but they're able to make changes. You see, the whole Instagram app didn't shut down, right? They're able to make changes as and when they occur because they're working in an agile fashion. As opposed to maybe, for example, you spend a whole year delivering a product. When it's time for you to make change, it's going to be massive at that point in time, or you can't begin to undo what you've done, right? And so, I mean, if you think about the iPhone right now, this was not how it started. I can't remember how it started, but I'm sure it was not how it started. Probably it wasn't as colorful as it was. It didn't have all the features that it needed. If you think about even the phone years ago, it was probably the basic phone call, text message, black and white, and all of that. But now there's that evolution. And that reason why Scrum is popular, of course, is we always focus on delivering quality. Just because we don't have the big picture right now doesn't mean that we cannot deliver quality to our customers and they make customers happy, of course. The processes are effective, they're flexible, and most especially, it creates that work culture that enhances productivity, that enhances, innovation. Something that I don't have here as I'm speaking is there's values in Scrum, something called Scrum values. And whenever I shared this, to the class, I'm always smiling because I remember the first time I encountered these values. I thought it made me feel like, am I like in a psychology class or something? Because they're not the kind of words you would think should be associated with a way of managing project, especially since Agile started in the software development industry. And I'm thinking about Scrum values that include focus, openness, respect, courage, commitment. I'm like, what? But there's a reason why, and it is not lost on me that companies are adopting agility because at the end of the day, without the people, there's no product. Without focus, the teams are not focused on what they're working on. They're not open to share if they're having a blocker or impediment. If they're not courageous to try to innovate, if they're not committed to their work, if they don't have respect for one another, nothing's getting out of the door. And whatever gets out of the door, there's definitely going to be a flaw to it, right? So while that I said, agile is a way of working and it's a mindset. So there are principles that underline it, but of course, it's also a way of actually delivering value to the customers. All right, what I'm going, if something stands out to you, please let me know in the chat. But as well, I want to make sure that you're also still following me as well as I keep going. Just put yes, I'm following. So I make sure that I haven't lost anyone. Just say yes in the chat. That will be helpful. All right. So why then, again, more reasons why Scrum is popular, right? It's used across multiple industries. I mentioned before that when it started, it was heavily on software development. Agile was heavily on software development. But now it feels like all eyes are open. Everyone, like literally everyone. Before in the beginning of our programs years ago, most of the students would be applying just to tech companies, and all of that. But now I told them like literally companies are looking for Scrum Masters. And just because you might not see the title, always look at the job description because it's very, very similar to what we already do in class. So financial services company, I have a student that's working in Weather Channel. Why would Weather Channel? That was a very surprising one for me. People are working at Macy's, Kroger, CVS. Of course, we have the banks, and we have actually some companies that are also not popular. So most time, people say that that maybe they are waiting and they're trying to apply for jobs and they're not getting. I'm like, you're focusing on the very small market. You're focusing on the fangs, which is like, the Amazon, the Netflix, Google, all of those. No, there's such a wide variety of companies that need agile skills and Scrum skills. So education, insurance, travel and tourism, hospitality, pharmaceuticals, and of course the popular companies that we know, like mentioned, like the FANGs, right? So because the Google, Apple, Sage, Legal, Rent. So there's so many. So yes, in fact, one of my challenge to you as you go into like as you're navigating your next steps, is just put the Scrum Master jobs around your area and see what comes up and look at the companies, look at the job description and all of that, just again to bring to life the possibilities that are out there. So quick one again, Scrum Master role. What does that look like? What does the Scrum Master do on a day to day? Again, this is very, very lightweight. I do much more intense in my class, but I want to make sure that I give you enough information to get started with. So the Scrum Master is someone who's responsible for ensuring that the team lives their agile values and principles, and that they are following that process, they're following the practices, right? And so things like when we say clearing obstacles, remember I mentioned how the team has to be self-managed. And so when teams are working together, if you think about the best place for conflict is when people are working together. And so you're building a product, you're releasing a service, you're putting together a feature, whatever it is, your teams that are working together, there'll always be that conflict. And of course, there are obstacles. So sometimes maybe in your day to day, you think about where you work right now, think about what are the obstacles that you face when you're doing your work. Do you escalate to someone? Do you take ownership of it? Do you wait, that it disappears by itself? Well, the goal of the team is that they're able to navigate through their obstacles by themselves. However, a Scrum Master is there to support them. And based on the maturity of that team, a Scrum Master might be the one who takes ownership of that obstacle and helps make that less of an obstacle, or the team takes ownership of that as they mature. And of course, establishing that environment where the team can be effective, addressing team dynamics, ensure that there's a good relationship between the team and others outside of the team, and protecting the team from outside interruptions and distractions. Now, I can spend a lot talking about all of this because again, when I'm talking about distractions and interruptions, you will be surprised how the team, that's why one of the Scrum value is literally focus. There's a reason why, or building that relationship between them and those outside of the team. Depending again on the size of the company that you work for or the organization or the complexity of the work your team is doing, there will be different stakeholders they have a stake in the and they have they want a pie or whatever a portion of the pie or whatever your team is working on, right? And so as a Scrum Master, you literally like that buffer because your team has that sprint time to deliver value. And when there's distraction, when there's so much context that is being switched, it costs the team and it also costs timeline. It affects the customer, and so there's that ripple effect. And so these are some of the responsibilities of a Scrum Master. And if you're thinking about, all right, so maybe what skills then do a Scrum Master need to have? And as I'm going through this, I want to think about what skills do you already have that should be on here. And I'm going to take a bit here because when students come through our program, like I mentioned, I showed you the one at the beginning, stay-at-home mom, she did some work as a medical assistant or so, instead of working as a senior Scrum Master for Equifax Bank, now you might wonder like, okay, so what was her experience? Well, our experience was part of what she did, of course, got in our class, right? That was a hands-on experience, end to end, what it means to be Scrum Master on the job, right? But even before that, one of the things that we do in our class, of course, is the resume, the LinkedIn, and having that conversation with you to understand what your past jobs have been. They are usually transferable skills. Digital transferable skills. I was speaking to someone earlier today. She started as, a teacher, and I think her story was great. She started a teacher, an educator, and she realized that she had so many transferable skills into Scrum and Agile, and that's what she's working on right now. So as I'm sharing this, there's some of these skills that probably you already have, you already do. Maybe you don't even identify them because you do them naturally and it comes really easily. Or maybe you're using these skills in a place that you don't enjoy working at, so you actually undervalue those skills. So there, it could be different things, right? So thinking about, are you someone who easily facilitates? Are you someone who can come onto a room, a call, and take ownership of a call and guide people to an outcome or output? You'll be surprised how many times we have meetings and nobody's clear on what the agenda is. So what are we doing next? It is a skill. It is a skill. There are courses for it. In fact, we should probably have one course within Enster on just literally expert facilitation skills to be able to bring different people who are probably who have different mindset about something and lead them into an outcome after the call and hold them accountable for the results so that the next time we meet, we're making progress towards the goal. Then, of course, servant leader. This is so important. That's one of the key difference between a Scrum Master and a project manager. It's just that servant leadership. So you lead by being a servant. Not that your wishes and your words are subject to anybody, but there's a literally a leadership skill called servant leadership, and that's one of the key skills of a Scrum Master. You know how to get a team to collaborate. So you're someone who probably knows how to collaborate, or you know how to encourage collaboration. You have to be able to protect the team from distractions. Again, I'm talking about remove obstacles from the team. Coach. So are you someone who knows how to coach people? Are you probably already a coach right now without even having the title of it? Are you someone who knows how to coach people on getting them to where they want to get, even if they're not clear? One of the major skills of a Scrum Master. And then helping the team in following the Scrum principles. Of course, if you're a Scrum Master, you have to be a master of Scrum. And so you have to understand it so well in depth, right? That you're able to guide people. So there are more skills I can talk about: planning, problem solving, budget and scheduling, risk management, time management, and of course the soft skills: communication, leadership, conflict resolution, negotiation, empathy, and adaptability. So I want to pivot real quick into just how do you then map some of your experience to Scrum Master skills if you're considering doing that. And so I have this on here, and I hope it is clear. I believe it's clear. So one of my students who went through my program, and she was a teacher, right? And if you see the particular line that I like to read right out here is, and I'm going to read her, her message, which is what I took away and I appreciate most about the experience, which is the Scrum Master class that she took with us, is realizing that I've always applied Agile and Scrum practices throughout my professional career. I just didn't know what it was called or the specific terms used to identify them. So Stella helped me to understand that Agile practices can be implemented across the board throughout all industries. So this is someone who's a teacher, right? And so my ask for you is, and like I mentioned earlier on, most of the time we don't know what we don't know. And so they are transferable skills, but you might not consider them as such because we don't know what skills are needed in Agile and Scrum. So I'm double clicking a little bit on some of the skills. So I talked about communication and facilitation, right? So you have to be a great facilitator because again, you are facilitating discussions, you are facilitating conversations, you're removing barriers, you're ensuring that the teams are aligned and they're achieving their goals. So that's very important. Collaboration. Are you someone who's literally at the center of collaboration? Like your work requires extra collaboration. This is something that a Scrum Master needs to do because there are multiple players within your team and even outside of your team. So, and everybody has to work together literally in lockstep to move towards a shared objective. So if you're someone who probably you like to work by yourself, you're a solo winner, things like that, this might be a stretch for you. Not saying it's impossible, but collaboration is very important. Then leadership, this is very important because most times the Scrum Master role isn't one that, it's not like a like CEO or something like that. And so you have to be able to lead. People have to be able to respect you enough to literally let you influence them. That's the longest short story. So leadership and empowering the team to self-organize, making decisions, improving the team, literally telling the team what to do without you making them feel like, are you my manager? So this is subtle, but it's very important. And so the Scrum, one of the books that we read in the Scrum Guide, which is called the Scrum Guide, is Scrum Masters don't have authority, but they have influence. And so influence is a major skill for a Scrum Master. Then we talk about emotional intelligence. You're working with people, different people, internal people, business people, stakeholders. So emotional intelligence is very important. You have to be able to literally be confident in yourself that you can also exude confidence in others and also understand how to navigate working with people. Literally, the Scrum Master role is one that is really heavy on working with people. So I wanted to also show you how we've had a biochemist on Scrum Master because biochemist is all way in the biomedical sciences, right? Now, this person as a biochemist, right, emphasized how this degree made her a complex problem solver. And so that having those biological science degree meant you naturally have analytical skills. You know how to serve the Scrum teams in a way where if they have issues or anything that's in the way of their work, you can find that root cause of that issue. helping the team come up with solution, right? We're able to get data to help add value to the team. So this is how you're able to leverage, again, going back to how can I leverage my past experiences and tie and bring those transferable skills into where I want to go to, which is the Scrum Master route. Then continuous learning and agile mindset, very important as a Scrum Master. I'm always staying learning. So many things are happening. It's so fast. It's so quick. I mean, AI is in the picture, and so the Scrum Master want to continuously learn, and you have to bring those lessons back to your team, and even sometimes change how they're working and how they're operating. I'm trying to think about even one that I've had to do, more recently for the team, but you literally have to share with the team so that they're also learning. You don't want to become a roadblock yourself where the team don't know what it means to function in an agile fashion because you're no longer there. You want the team to be able to also take ownership of their continuous learning as well. Then coaching and mentoring, very, very important, right? You're coaching your team, you're mentoring them in agile practices, you're fostering their, growth, you're empowering them to literally fulfill their full potential. And so it's literally like you looking around your team and identifying who is either not finishing their work every sprint, who is not not talking up when it's time for the team to talk, who is not a team player, what skills are you lacking in your team? These are the things you're thinking about, recently, and I think I might need to trademark this, but I've started making a statement that a Scrum Master is a practicing CEO because you have to understand the business well enough, you have to understand your people well enough. You have to be able to see how can I get these people focused on the work that they're doing, but also expand their capacity to be able to do more and deliver value to the business. Am I able to also confirm that the value that we're delivering is what the business wants and getting that data back in? So there's so many nuances to that. And then last but not the least, conflict resolution. So of course, again, like I say, you're working with people, you should definitely expect conflict. But these are some of the skills, that a Scrum Master should have. Again, I'm sharing this because perhaps you already have some of the skills. So why don't you put in the chat for me, which of these skills have I mentioned so far that you already have? You do it without even thinking twice. It's part of your skills arsenal. Let me know what skills in the chat you already have that I've mentioned. Let me know what skills in the chat you have that I already mentioned. All right, let's keep going. Coaching and mentoring, awesome. Yes, Miss Mona. Mentoring leadership, that's awesome. Yep, absolutely. These are very, very important skills to have as a Scrum Master. Collaboration, that's a very, very important one. I must say, mentoring, that's great. This is absolutely great. Thank you for chiming in. So it's definitely across board. We have a lot of mentors, coaches, collaboration, and all of that. Again, these are very, very essential skills because there's only as much as you can do. I've recently been in back-to-back, a lot of high intense calls and rollouts or projects, as you want to call them, that has required working closely with different people, different time zone, different, people have different, what's the end goal in mind, right? And meeting them where they're at, but not getting derailed. So there's all of these nuances. And so Ajani, thank you for putting facilitating collaboration. Facilities is also a really, really, really key one, I must say, because you can work with a team where if you don't facilitate in such a way that is engaging, they might not show up for your next call. And in Scrum, like I mentioned, is this toolbox that has multiple tools. And one of the major tools we have are actually meetings. And there are specific meetings for specific reasons, right? And so if your team feels like, what are we even coming for this? Why are we even coming to this call? This call is not productive. They don't show up. And that actually ends up derailing the team. So there are so many parts to it. So that's why these skills are very important before we even go into the science of it. Having the soft skills or these overall competencies are very important. So with that being said, I did a real-time search for Scrum Master job. I already gave you all this, almost like a take-home assignment as a teacher that I am, is to just do a search for Scrum Master jobs around your area and see what comes up. Right here we have Truist Bank, we have Inspire Brands, we have AT&T Telecom, we've got Bay One, we've got Wise Calls. I think that's clothing and apparel. So all sorts of companies, right? And again, you can see like there are the amount of jobs that are out there, the range, right? In terms of income and all of that. So yeah, another reason why they're popular is again how much Scrum Masters earn, right? And you think about from the annual salary to the monthly salary. And so you have that negotiating power right there. Of course, you can earn way over six figures as a Scrum Master, and you can negotiate for more, depending again on how you leverage your interview process and what you're asking for, and how you communicate your value as well too. So that's one of the reasons why Scrum is popular because of how much people realize that hey, I can pack my skills the way it is, learn, understand what it means to be a Scrum Master, gather the experience that I need, being coached, being mentored myself, and then go and do the same to other companies or teams as well. So if you're thinking about the different ways to pivot, there are different ways, okay, like I mentioned around just leveraging your transferable skills. That's very important. But one gap I've seen here is definitely that most people, again, don't know what they have because it comes naturally, or they don't have a language to define it. And also because where they're trying to go to, they don't know the skills that are needed there, so they can't make that connection. But leveraging transferable skills, like some of the ones that I've mentioned here, are very, very important. Of course, there are more, but it looks like most of you already have some of the skills. Then learning the agile tools, there are multiple tools, that can be used. Yes, every company might have its own proprietary tool, or the tools that they use internally. But within our program, one thing we do is that we use the tools that we know, regardless of where you go to, like literally the industry famous tools. But if you go to a company that uses a whole different kind of tool, it won't be far off from what you've used in class. So we give our students access to those agile tools, right? So not just learning the agile tools, but how can you use that as a Scrum Master? How does that help you? How does that help the team? How does that help the company? What is the output of this tool? What are these tools supposed to, provide? And what am I out of the output, like what am I using that to do and who am I communicating that with? So the different elements of that too is very, very important. Then talk about developing an agile mindset, which really just means continuous improvement mindset, continuous learning mindset, not being stuck in your ways. Now, try not to take this as, make this as deep as I would want to. But that agile mindset portion, though, is important because as a Scrum Master, how I know if a Scrum Master has an agile mindset is how they work and operate. So, for example, if your team says that they don't want to do a particular Scrum or agile process, and if the Scrum Master says, well, this is what the Scrum Guide says, this is what we are supposed to do, that's how I know they don't have an agile mindset. Because a Scrum Master with an agile mindset knows not to say that, right? Knows that to get your team to actually do something sometimes starts with you letting them try their approach, number one, and then for a period of time, and then getting data to have a deeper conversation. Another approach is to make them, all of you meet in the middle somehow and say, okay, can we try this for a period of time? And then if we don't like it, we can change. So that's why that agile mindset is very important. Yes, agile is a way of work, it's a mindset. Yes, Scrum is a framework, but even the Scrum guide in itself has changed multiple times, letting you know that there's always flexibility. Scrum guide literally tells you like, hey, this is not prescriptive. So there's that room for creativity, basically. I hope that helps. Then, of course, ways to pivot, highlighting industry expertise, which again, we work with our students on this one too. So I could share more about that later. Building that portfolio of agile project, making sure your resume, your LinkedIn profile speaks to the experience that you have, because a recruiter, you don't know what their background is. Sometimes you might be lucky to have a recruiter who's like a Scrum Master hiring recruiter look at your resume and they're able to pick out the Scrum Master experience from there, even if you don't blatantly spell it out. Or you might have someone who it's just a HR personnel or hiring person who doesn't know anything about Agile and Scrum. And if your resume is saying something else, is not spelling out the word specific to them, they're not going to move forward, right? So, of course, resume and LinkedIn is very important because you have to project yourself as the best person for the job. Or I say everything equals to get into a comprehensive program. And so, this is where I'm going to pause a little bit to see if anyone has any question. I don't see any question in the chat, but I'm going to pause a little bit so that I can go into how definitely to me this part is how I can actually support you if that is something you're considering or thinking about, right? I said I've done this for years. I literally have a class ongoing now, but also just being in the market and being in the space, I'm able to see how it's shifting and how it's changing and what companies are looking for in professionals. So it is, to me, I think it's just a gift for me to be able to share how I can support you in your career journey, especially if you're looking to pivot into Scrum Agile, or if you have any question at all about the space, this is my undivided time to be able to answer that question for you. So I'm just going to pause a little bit to see if anyone has any question for me. There are no questions. I'm going to get started a little bit into others. So, yep, Ajahn, you have a question for me?
I guess not so much a question, just kind of want to make sure I have clarity of understanding. So, I guess in my process of thinking, what I was looking to try to glean out of this, out of Scrum and what it could do for me, excuse me,
No
is
worries.
helping to kind of like organize, my thoughts and ideas and processes and goals as I implement in my business. So, kind of what I do is manage and facilitate the implementation of electronic medical records in clinics and facilities as they either take on a new product or transition from one to another. And we're in the process of discovery and identifying the needs and how those workflows and things are going to change from one product to another. So my idea of thinking moving down this path was, this is kind of a way to help understand and organize those thoughts and ideas and help implement and facilitate those changes. But I'm kind of really feeling like and again, it still feels like it would be something that would be helpful to me, but it feels more almost like a philosophy of how to um, work with, collaborate, and for lack of a better term, manipulate people within your team or around you to accomplish a conjoined goal or meet a conjoined task. Is that kind of more on the line of what we're looking at?
No, not really. So again, there's only as much as I could cover today, right? I wouldn't say the word manipulate at all. I think the word you're looking for probably is influence. Now, Scrum in itself as a framework, there are tools. I use the word tool, the toolbox, and there are multiple tools in it, right? So we've got Scrum roles and accountabilities, which means a Scrum Master is the person who has a role within the Scrum framework. We've got like a product owner, we've got the development team and all of that. Then we've got the events. We've got multiple things that I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but things like the daily stand-up, the sprint plan, the sprint retrospective, the sprint review, the backlog refinement, right? We've got artifacts, we've got documentation, we've got like the product vision, the product goal, all of that. So the Scrum Master is someone who has to understand how to use the tools in the toolbox to do exactly what you're trying to do. So it's not about manipulation, and it's not just it's beyond the principle. The principle is great and wonderful, but there's also a science to it, which is you have to understand how to leverage the tools in the toolbox to get to the output that you're trying to get to. And so that's the part of it that people don't have, and that's where the program comes into play. Does that help? So you have to understand what it means to literally be a Scrum Master and to apply Scrum on the day to day to move forward, right? To um, discover or deliver or refine your processes, eliminate waste in your processes, get people positioned at the right places at work, at output, get your customers involved in what you're doing. So there are certain elements of Scrum itself as a framework that needs to be understood. That's probably what you're missing.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So, but thank you for asking that question. I think that's very helpful. I wish people, I mean, the language I would usually use is Scrum is an art and a science. So the science is the tools in the toolbox, is what does literally leveraging Scrum on a day-to-day mean? Like currently right now, I'm working with data product teams, right? And they're changing and evolving architecture of how this major businesses gets data and how this businesses leverages data to make informed decision. Of course, it cannot just be manipulating people. It can't just be influencing people. It cannot just be, kumbaya. There are literally things that need to be put in place to get people moving from this to that, seeing the progress towards that roadmap, so towards that timeline, having deadlines, getting customers involved, doing testing, doing deployment, getting things into production. So all of that will be chaotic if the Scrum itself, the tools in the toolbox aren't leveraged and put as standards, almost like a standard operating model for teams to leverage. And again, this same model, this same standard operating model is what a lot of companies I mentioned before use as well too. So with that being said, I want to just go into a bit of a detail, right? For anyone who's looking to learn what it literally means to implement Scrum on their day to day. So whether you're a professional who's looking to understand what it means to be a Scrum Master on the job, because you can acquire the skills, number one, number two, and then leverage it where you're working at. Right? You can leverage it, either you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, or you're someone who's looking to go to a different company, or you're someone who wants to consult for other companies. This is a skill set that you can acquire and use it as you will. Beyond the mindset, but literally learning the skill set of what it means to be a Scrum Master. How can I come to an environment? I will say this always boldly and confidently. It doesn't matter the environment that I step into, or maybe any of my students step into. I don't care what the domain is. I don't care what the technology is. If I go in there, I am definitely able to bring my skill set to that place. And you will see the progress towards whatever their general goal is as a team. You will see so much progress, either the way they communicate, the way they're delivering value, the way their processes are refined, and all of that too. And so that's a gift, right? That you can use anywhere. So if you're someone who's looking to, again, acquire the skills to become a Scrum Master, or just acquire Agile skills, we have this program within Nstar Technologies, and that is the Scrum Master Comprehensive Program. And this program is 8 to 10 weeks. And we've created in such a way where if you want to land a Scrum Master job or more, we don't want anyone to have to feel like they've got to go and take another program, or apply to school or anything of that nature, break the bank, get another degree, and all of that, right? And so, because most of the misconception is that you have to be technical to become a Scrum Master. No, you need an IT degree. Nope. You have to work as a Scrum Master to become a Scrum Master. Nope. You need to go to school. None of that at all. So I see I'm being asked about how much it costs. So currently, right now, our program is $2,500. But I wanted to go over the program in a way so that you understand the benefit that you're getting. If you take a quick look at our social media platforms or our website, all of that, you literally see feedback from people, from students, from entrepreneurs who have gone through our program. We've had C-level executives send their staff to our school for our programs, and they didn't end up becoming Scrum Masters. No, they just ended up either being promoted or moving forward somewhere else in their career. And the way we do that is that we do have three core pillars here. We have a tech mastery phase. This is where we go into the technical training aspect of what it means to be an agile practitioner. So we cover more about the complex technical components, right? We understand that people might not have that experience. So what does it again mean to be a Scrum Master on the job? How do you understand the technical portion of it? Then we have, of course, the career launch framework. So for those who want to maybe want to apply for a job, so from resume writing to positioning you online, ensuring that you're designed to stand out from the crowd to recruiters and employers, yes. So yes, the answer is yes, that we do help in finding a job after the training. The way we do that actually is making sure that when we have recruiters sending jobs our way, our student gets first right of access, and they view that. But the way we also do that is ensuring that you're prepared in terms of applying for jobs, your LinkedIn, profile, your resume, preparing you for interviews. And we have so many assets, so many things within the program that supports that. We've got real life agile interview questions. We've got resume bank, all of these things again to prepare you for the job. And then recruitment and hiring funnel here is where we know that again, we know what interviewers are looking for. And so preparing you adequately for interviews with hiring managers, with recruiters, technical interviews, all of this is actually part of the package. So you might wonder, what are the things that you're getting part of our Scrum Master program? The curriculum that we've set up. I always say this, I'm not trying to get anyone to just pass a certification. Anyone can pass a Scrum certification. You can take one, you can register for one next week and pass the next week. There are a lot of certified Scrum Masters that are not working. My role here is to ensure that you do have an agile career and you have a job that is aligned to your expertise. Then, of course, we have the weekly live virtual mentoring session, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 to 8 p.m. You have access to your class recordings. You have one-on-one access to expert faculty. You have on-demand support via Slack. You've got job search, interview preparation training. We have private alumni community. We have support till employment. That's something you don't see anywhere, but we do support you till you're employed. And we have templates and scripts, things to help your process much more efficient, basically. And even with that being said, we are also authorized in the state of Georgia to actually offer this program. So this is not just something we're putting together just to make a quick whatever it is. No, we literally get audited. And so our program is to ensure that, again, we move from where you are to getting that job, Scrum Master job that you're seeking for. Plus, again, experienced instructors that have the actual work experience, hands-on training. We've got projects in class, that resume boss that I mentioned about. I want to build a strong resume. I want to get your LinkedIn to be optimized, and a certificate of completion to showcase your skills that you can share on LinkedIn. Tag us, we share, we get more eyes, all of this wonderful stuff. So it's a whole literally comprehensive program. And question was, how much is our program? So right now the price honestly is $2,500. And so if you're saying that, you know what, I think I want to definitely invest in this, I would recommend you to just make a payment literally for less than, I don't know, a lunch money. But you can hold your space for $50. And in that way, someone from the team is definitely going to reach out and continue the process with you because we need to get some documentation, put you through the whole process and all of that and get you ready for the next class. But if you also want to book a call, if you have more questions, and you feel like you need more clarity, I would definitely recommend that you book a call here, and I'm putting the link in the chat right here. You can book a call right there, and someone from the team will definitely speak with you as well. So again, it's out of all of the things that we're given, the total price is $23,500. But we keep doing this price because we know the market is very volatile. We know the market is shifting. I want to make sure that people do have the opportunity to upskill or reskill, and have more options in where they can work at. So I would definitely encourage you that if you want to go ahead and secure your seat in the next class, I would recommend that you do that. And in terms of the next class, let me see where if I can find that. Let's go back here a bit. Well, the next class is actually starting May, I believe it's May 20th. So you do have quite a bit of time to register in terms of sending your documents in and we getting into our system as well. But for definitely securing this prize, I would definitely recommend that you click on the first link that I did share, and just hold your spot for $50. And yes, I do have student reviews across my presentation today, just again to show you that, hey, this is something that we've done over the years, and we do have, there's a lot of results and proof that is the proof is in the pudding, honestly. So if you need more clarification, if you need more assurances, there's enough feedback that you can leverage from our social media platforms for that. And with that, I'm going to pause. I want to ask if anyone has any more questions for me. And I hope I've been able to answer your question, Hima, as well, because I know you did ask me about how much it costs and if there's any help in finding a job after the training. Any other question for me about this? So people might ask, well, is the demand there? Okay, awesome. Yes, the demand is there. Absolutely. The demand is there. I'm hoping that we've been able to like literally take some time to search for Scrum Master jobs around you. That is for those who are looking for Scrum Master jobs. But if you're also a business owner or an entrepreneur, I would definitely recommend that you acquire the skills. These skills are going to take you farther to the next level. They're going to help you, help your team. If you're starting a business, these are the skills you also want to acquire. Remember, I mentioned about how agility is now way beyond software development. Literally, different companies are like, you can even search like there's Agile for entrepreneurs, Agile for consultants, there's all of these skills. And it's interesting because now people are literally bucketing the skills in the stuff like several leadership skills or fast or collaboration skills and selling those as programs and stuff. But in this program, we cover all of that is encompassing. So again, my next class is May 20th. Our next class is May 20th. Our classes on Tuesday and Thursdays, 6 to 8 p.m. And if you want to get started, definitely just click on the link and we're going to get you going. But with that being said, I want to pause here a bit. I just want to ask, I mean, I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope it is giving you more insight as to just what Agile is, what Scrum is. And yeah, I hope you've been able to figure out exactly like if you came here with a question like, okay, what does my next step look like? Or if you just came here for more like I want to just be aware of what this is even, it was able to paint that picture for you. So please let me know in the chat if that has been the case for you. But also, if you have any question, I'm here to answer your questions. All right, but I hope this has been helpful for you. Can I get some feedback in the chat? All right, I'm glad to hear that this morning. Okay. Well, if you are all on social media, which I believe that's where the world is right now, but if you want to definitely yes, if you want to definitely, connect with us, please feel free to do that. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, and also our website as well. I'm glad, Anisha, that I was able to help you. So yes, Doug, you wanted some more information on what Scrum consisted of. I absolutely understand that there's only as much as we cover in an hour, but one thing we definitely do for sure is we do have monthly sessions. So the next one could be probably more around deep dive, right? But there's only as much as we cover without, in an hour basically. So today's class was really covering more around just what Agile was, why it was popular, and Scrum and the skills you need in Scrum. Knowing more information about what Scrum is, what it means to practicalize and implement Scrum on the day to day, that might be a whole different session in itself. But if you're definitely looking to pivot into the Scrum space, I'll just say beyond even getting more information about what Scrum is, you might as well just invest in a program, to get just know what Scrum is, but how do you implement it, right? So. And Ajani, I'm glad that yes, I'm glad to hear that as well. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions, but thank you all so much for giving me your feedback in the chat. But you definitely know how to reach us. Please do that. I can't wait to see as many of you who can in our program or in our class. If you know anyone who think this might be helpful for, please feel free to direct them our way. But also, like I said, we do have this monthly. And so as long as you're on a mailing list, you definitely get that information for sure. And we'll be sharing this recording, I believe, with everyone as well on here too. And so you can reach out anytime with questions. Thank you all so much. And please have an amazing weekend. And don't shy away from asking questions when needed. Bye, everyone. You're welcome.